All right, welcome back to it's week 9. This is video number 9. Video number 9, lecture time.
You didn't change the board.
I know. Not only did I not change the board, precariously obscured by Toa Mari Matoro here, who's the only one up here right now for reasons we'll get to. But I also forgot the other board I made for the lecture tonight. So this is all you get tonight. It's most of what we covered last time, and then like a little bit of what we're going to be covering this time, and then next week I'll have the new board, and hopefully a fuller classroom. Yes.
Do I get an A for attendance?
Tristan, you get whatever the hell the Matoran version of like an S++ is for being the only person to come and sit. Zach, you don't count. You do the camera. You're like the what is it?
I see how it is.
What they call the ones that wheel in the little monitor to put up the
Teacher's
AV club?
Yeah, he's like the AV club kid.
Oh, then I'm beating your ass at the class. Give me fucking lunch money, you nerd.
We live in the South, and castle doctrine's a thing in Florida.
Oh, true.
True.
All right, so come to my house and I'll get mine.
All right. So, quick recap on everything we covered last week. For the most part, we're just going over 2007, which is, as we can see, been a really dense year story-wise. We have 3 books. We have, I think it's 6 comics, including 1, 2, 3, 4 story serials. Technically, it's only 3 story serials, and Many Deaths of Toa 2 Yet is a short story, but I mean, here's really counting. And then, man, it was just a lot. More or less, the Toa Mari, having been underwater in Mari Nui, in the pit, have been fighting the Bohrok-Kal warlords, and Hydraxin is going around and fighting stuff and fighting Nocturne, and now they realize that, Mari Nui is going to be destroyed if they want to, revive Montanui to full health and awaken him. They're going to need to, for whatever reason, they're going to have to destroy Mari Nui. They don't really know yet. And after some fights with some characters that have come back into the fold, we had Karzani show back up out of nowhere for seemingly no real good reason, other for him than to just not be on his island when it was destroyed, and introduce a Toa Lezovic, who we never really see again. Spoilers, I guess.
That's my line.
Yeah, well, listen. Last week we all took turns making fun of Chris because he wasn't getting on board and using the thing that he says the most, which is, did they make a toy of that? And everyone else was stealing that. And now you're slipping up, so now I have to do that for you.
I'll just edit it to make it look like I said it. Being quiet on set. Spoilers!
Okay, cool. Good. We'll do a little cutaway to Bigfoot Zach saying spoilers. And then we did the whole Nui Stone thing with the Many Deaths of Toa 2 Yet, following that up with Into Darkness, where Makuta Pterodax, Scary Terry, as we'll be referring to him for a little bit, is inhabiting the body of Maxilla's robot, working with Matoro. And they resurrect Toa 2 Yet, and they might have got the Nui Stone almost, and then Brutaka shows up, summons Botar, and Botar does what he does best, which is cuck the shit out of Makuta. Whenever he's about to achieve anything, and takes Staff of Artaka away. We'll be getting back to actually what that staff does here in a little bit, because we've still got to follow the Toa Nuva on what they've been doing this entire time. As we know, they've been going around, doing some checklist stuff, figuring out, what they need to do to, awaken Motunui. Last week I also said on that note that Toa Nuva, he kind of disappeared for a little bit, and nobody really knew where he went. We'll come back to that, because I guess he started hearing some voices in his head, and the voice told him to go back to Motunui and just take the giant sun. Way back, we said that there was this giant sundial that was underground for reasons that...
Man, that was like 3 sessions ago.
Dude, man, that was like, this is 108, so we talked about this in the first video. The very first video of Motunui Online Game 1.
So 12 hours ago.
No, we talked about this damn near 16 hours ago. And
I can't do math. Don't mind me.
oh, dude, you're fine. You're fine. And anyway, so Toa for whatever reason, was told by some mysterious voice in his head, "Hey, go and grab the sundial from under in the Onukoro mines that we had there. Get that sundial, put it in the Coliseum, or underneath the Coliseum. Like, where's the archives? I don't know. In Metro Nui. So Toa did that, and then met up with everyone. It was like, oh, hey guys, I'm back. And they were like, oh, where did you go? And he's like, weird that he's just listening to strange voices in his head telling him what to do and not talking to other people about it. It's not a good look. Not a good look. And so, following up with them, we heard about how they went and destroyed Dark Brotherhood Fortress. Or the Dark Hunters Fortress, rather. They went to Zaya to go and get the Staff of Artaka, which Botar had dropped the Tatrak on it because he could. He thought it was funny.
It was fucking metal as hell.
It was good as hell. He's like, I saw Artaka do this once. And just did that by the Kenobi Dragon. And we find out that Makuta are a species, not a person. A lot of the stuff I did talk about, as far as like the whole like deep lore stuff of that, comes from a 2008 story serial. We're not there yet. We're about to be though, so that's why I didn't feel too bad about just skipping ahead. Called the Mutran Chronicles, which is basically the diary of a Makuta named Mutran, basically just giving us a nice, clean, a detailed history of the Brotherhood of Makuta and how everything kind of transpired. And I kind of give a lot of stuff there, but we'll talk more about it when we get to 2008. And I can talk about the Mutran Chronicles, so I can cover what
Mutran?
Mutran.
Mutran?
Mutran.
Is he a Chinese gangster or sexually confused?
No, Zach.
So does it go Mew, Mewtwo, then Mewtran?
Yes, Zach. Very good, very good. Because while Mew is just some random animal hanging around, Mewtwo was made by scientists, and Mewtran is a scientist that makes fucked up things. So it's the natural evolution of, being what you hate, becoming what you hate. Ooh, oh no! Want to try that line again, but with communist?
I can't wait for it to edit out. Say, am I going to be communist?
Good thing this isn't live.
Right?
Hey, just say that line, but just superimpose someone who's not here's head over you, so they get shit for it for not being here.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. I like this idea.
I like to think you pick Chris.
Make it so a dog says it too, because nobody can be really mad at the dog. They're just like, oh, well, listen.
If a dog says it, they'll understand.
Yeah. Whatever, they'll just take it out on
Can
other
you also
dogs.
cut that out?
Okay, so we find out, all that stuff with the Makuta. And so as Makuta Igarax leaves the island of Zaya after body slamming Onua, he finds out that there was a large weapon order placed for some mysterious organization that he had never heard of before, and went to go investigate it before he went to Karzani. So he goes and finds there's like a cave where they're waiting for, where presumably whoever is on the receiving end of this order is waiting for their stuff to drop. And turns out he runs into Botar and another member of the Order of Matanui named Trinuma, and proceeds to just kill Botar. Just completely just off screens him. For someone who was given this dude, he's better than Axon, he's better than Brutaka.
Yeah, Botar's the yellow ugly fucker.
Yeah,
weird
the huge dude
yeah.
who just teleports with the giant teeth and just teleports people. It was like, holy crap!
Yeah.
They kind of built him up a little bit, and they completely off-screened him.
Was it like a fight, or did he just get one shot, bro?
He got fight. It was a fight, but he pretty much got BTFO'd because Igarax just used his powers of his control of magnetism to just kind of crumple him, which is not a good.
So, are we to assume that all the Makutas are as on the same par of power level?
No, we are not.
Except for Scary Terry, who's probably more powerful.
Okay, so here's the problem. All of the Makuta have different stat charts. They have a lot of the same abilities, but how they apply those is completely different across the board. For example, Makuta Pterodax is considered to be, combat-wise, weaker than Makuta Icarax. Even though Icarax is considered to be the top-tier, #1 weapons and, hand-to-hand combat specialist. He is the best at fighting. And if we look at, because in Miniature Chronicles, I'll just come back here a little bit, because basically what happened was, at one point, Icarax was getting really annoyed because Pterodax just completely fucked up the whole take over Metro Nui plan, get all the Matoran, and that's all we need to do to take over the universe, guys, and then got defeated by 6 Novice Toa and 1 Turaga. Icarax was like, you know what, no. Pterodax, his scheming and his connivingness, it's just like, the universe doesn't need to be taken over like that. We just need to go with brute force, just conquer everything. That's what we're going to do, and it's going to be great. And Makuta Icarax went to go and start conquering some small villages in the northern continent of the Matoran universe. And did that for a little bit, and then Makuta Pterodax heard about this and showed up and was like, hey, man, so I heard you're not really vibing with my plan. That sucks, because you're going to do it. And Icarax proceeded to just fight Makuta. Pterodax. God, man, now that we actually have it where Makuta is just not...
When you say Makuta, I don't think Pterodax, so...
Okay, cool. That works, because, he is the one that...
Well, he was referred to as Makuta
the entire time. Exactly. But now that they're like, oh, Makuta is a species, so now you gotta give them their names, it's... whatever. So, proceeds to fight Pterodax for hours and hours and hours, and Pterodax just lets himself get beat up. He just takes all the damage. He just like it's like in Baki in the in Raitai tournament where Biscuit Olivia comes out and just like one of the coyotes starts like hitting him on, and all he does is just hands over his head and just lets himself keep getting beat on until finally just one shot Icarax. So yes, Zach.
Your belly was exposed when you did that. Can I CGI a tattoo on you?
What kind of tattoo?
Only if it says daddy.
Family friendly, appropriate. It won't break terms of service.
Dude, put this on there. Put that. Okay. There you go. We'll show my devotion. The big dot in the middle, I can do my belly button. So, okay, so yeah, but basically he lets Icarax just tire himself out trying to fight Pterodax, and Pterodax is like, I literally have pretty much just sustained no damage, and then just one-shots Icarax. And he goes, cool, so here's the thing, Icarax. I'm glad you can now see just how, even though you're a better fighter, I've just completely destroyed you in every way. And you're still useful to me, so I won't kill you. I'm not going to destroy you. You're still useful to me. I still have plans for you. But one day you will stop to be amusing to me. You will stop being more than just a plaything to me, and then I could be 1 year, could be 1,000 years, could be 100,000 years, who knows? And when that time comes, I will just wipe you out of existence. But until then, gonna help me. And so Icarax went back to start helping Pterodax. So it is, and all the Makuta have like different ways that they would want to approach the same situation. But while they are all extraordinarily strong, it is absolutely it is more important how they use their abilities than it is what their individual capabilities are. Because you just have it where Makuta Miserex, we talked about last time, who was the leader of the Brotherhood of Makuta, just before Scary Terry did. Yeah. I mean, Scary Terry won in single combat. And, there's not a whole lot of good reason why Scary Terry should have won in single combat. Makuta Miserex is a terrifying being. But just did. Yes?
You said graphs. Did the toys of them actually have, graphs or something with them?
Say it again?
Or you said, their, how'd you refer to it?
I have no idea. You said grass?
Graph.
Graph?
Yeah.
I don't think I said graph.
Oh, something like that.
Chart.
You said chart. You said chart. Yeah, you said chart. Did they actually have
No,
charts?
they did not. They did not. However, Not to my knowledge anyway, they might, who knows, Lego might have made something on there. I do know, so for a lot of the information sourcing, for a lot of the stuff leading up to this, there are two major places that I have not really talked about before this, and this is also completely fan community done, and that is Biosector 01, or BSO1, however you want to refer to it, and it is basically like the Bionicle wiki. There is a Bionicle wiki, but the community generally has come together on that the Bionicle wiki is inferior to BSO1, if only because BSO1 is more, actively curated, and people just invested more time into that. But it is like a huge pool of resource information where you can look and see like where story segments are happening at the same time, or read upon different characters or what their abilities are and stuff. And they do have like little numbers charts on like 6 in strength, 7 in intelligence, and 8 in speed. They do have those on there. The other large resource information that you can use today is called Biomedia Project. And I mean, they literally host like all of the books, all of the comics, all of the like online serials. They even have some like back catalog versions of old Lego Bionicle websites stored on there, so you can kind of re-see some of the stuff. Even things like little mini CD promotional discs that came in like boxes of cereals and stuff. Like they have those on there that you can access, including all the movies and games. Yes.
What legendary autist made that website?
Dude, I can't remember his name right now. So forgive me on this. I will get back to you on that. Because I mean, like for real, like the people in charge of both Biomedia Project and BSO1, absolute legends, for all.
I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
It is now.
Yeah, you're wrong.
Dude, you're wrong.
You just said so.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm sorry. I thought this Bionicle boy, that is me. Nah, you don't know how to legends.
Keep this up. I'll have tomatoes for the class next week.
Oh no. But yeah, so phenomenal work. I mean, categorizing things like they'll find like Russian promotional like storybook stuff that was sent only to Lego employees for stuff or whatever. Just upload it, or like, hey, here's like super secret, like we talked to game developers and found like demo versions of other Bionicle games that just never made it out of production. Like we never talked about it, but back in 2004, there was supposed to be like a Bionicle, Legends of Metro Nui video game. In the same way the first movie had a game, like this was supposed to be a game for the second movie, just never came out. Like there was a demo out there just some like beta stuff, and just never really panned out. They just canceled it. But I mean, you could play all sorts of old like Bionicle Flash games that they had on the website there, as well as, like I said, I mean, it is a pretty comprehensive, as comprehensive as we can get to just a collection of media pieces, whether it was in Lego magazines, like actual comic books, storybooks, world guides, and other things. Like it's all pretty much cataloged on there, and it is. I mean, it's definitely been like a fan creation thing. That and BSO1 as well. So thank you much to you guys who work on that, because that's how I got to do all this stuff. Because originally I tried to just buy all of the books that I didn't have, and let me tell you, that gets expensive. I guess it shouldn't be, but it's not even the comics. It's that later on they had a company that would go and bundle a bunch of the comics in like a graphic novel-sized books, and it's like, oh yeah, the first issue of it, it's like $78, and I'm like, well, that's kind of gross. It's like that's kind of really ridiculously overpriced for no reason. Weird. So yeah, thanks for the resource material. But yes, other than that, I mean, if you want to kind of get a power leveling on things, like the Bionicle universe is pretty nebulous. They kind of rank it more based on species more than anything. But the easiest way to do it is just look at how old they are. Like a Toa that is, like 80,000 years old is probably ostensibly more capable than a Toa that is like 10,000 years old. The exception surprisingly just seeming to be the Toa Nuva. Like in all
They
aspects.
got struck by the lightning and all.
Oh, the Toa Nika too. I mean, that was
Nika,
yeah, the Nika. I mean, that was a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Like where they get lightning, supercharged
Yeah.
lightning powers. Like, oh man,
They seem
definitely.
to be more powerful than the Toa that they were going to rescue.
Yeah,
At that time, that wasn't the Nuva, was it?
No, that was the Nuva. They were
Okay.
just trying to rescue the Nuva.
Yeah, so they seem to be more powerful to me than the Nuva.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, it just seems because that is one thing. Is like the story just like they introduced the Toa Nuva as like, oh, we're Toa Nuva now. We're even more stronger and better. But they just like in the early they did that back when Hopka was writing the books and Farshti had not really started yet. But by the time that Farshti was writing all this stuff, they completely moved away from the Toa Nuva. So it was like they were like, oh, we're stronger, but we don't really. You never get the chance to see that.
They always hype up Lacan, my boy.
Yeah.
Would he be more powerful than like the Nika?
That is a good question. I think
Because he's in my book, Lacan's a big dick baller.
Lacan is a big dick baller. I think Lacan is just like the embodiment and the personification of being a hero.
Yeah.
He is like the
He's like what a Toa is supposed to be.
He is like what a Toa should ascribe to be in every way. Because he literally only lost to Nadiki and Kreka because they were like, I'm literally just going to dump Fakama into a vat of molten protodermis if you don't come with me. And Lacan was like, okay, and as good measure, like kicked his lava surfboard, that his lava swords that turned into a lava surfboard, just kicked it out from under his feet, so because Nadiki did still drop Fakama, I forgot to mention that, still dropped him because he was still going to kill him anyway, but Lacan had the foresight to see this, kicked his lava that picked up Fakama and let him escape. So I mean, if it really hadn't been that he had to worry about any extraneous things, like Lacan probably would have defeated Nadiki and Kreka, even in a 2v1. He probably would have defeated them both if it really came to it, just because of battle experience and just a general sense of wealth and mindset worldview. Once again, when he was talking about like save the heart of Metru Nui, like Fakama and a bunch of the other Toa were like, I don't know what that means. That's just probably just weirdo speak for, save Toa Lacan. He's the heart of Metru Nui. But he was like, no, like Lacan could see the big picture. That's kind of what makes him a big dick baller. The Anika are really strong. I do feel like their masks were kind of much better. But I feel like in that same way, like, because once again, Jawa has the mask of just rolling straight, D20s. He's just like, cool, critical success. Just do a flip into the air, catch someone, use the inertia of my movement to change my entire direction and jump somewhere else. Or like Huki with the mask of accuracy. Like the masks, which I feel is 100% just a thing of the masks got better over time. Like the abilities they would give to them got way cooler over time. As opposed to like a lot of the Gen 1, or not Gen 1, but like the first and second iterations of Toa got introduced to. Speaking of Lacan, quick note, I forgot to mention this. When they were on the Isle of Karzani fighting Icarax, they did recover his mask. So they did get Toa Lacan's mask back, but the island is completely destroyed. But yeah, so Icarax kills Botar. And actually, good timing, Jason. Welcome. This is Makuta Icarax. Notice that he looks like a big dick baller. Red and black design, very similar to Makuta Pterodax. He's got this twin-bladed sword and like this rotational blade shield. That's pretty cool. He's got these super cool 4 wings. And what's really interesting is he also wears the Kenobi Krakan, the Mask of Shadows, which was Scary Terry's mask. Which, while Scary Terry was under the sea, he telepathically reached out to Icarax and was like, "You'll get my mask back. You can wear it for a bit, I guess. Just don't let anybody know." And so Icarax has just been sitting at Makuta home base, just sitting there with a mask being like, "I'm the big Makuta now." But yeah, no, Icarax is super cool. Like I said, best combat fighter of the Makuta, but once again, that does not mean that he is the best. There's a reason that everyone has just stayed and just followed Pterodax's orders. Like, even if Pterodax is not the strongest, he's not, like, his intellect reaches so high that, once again, like, the other Makuta can't even really understand what he sees. But yeah, so kills Botar.
It's a spinner!
It is a spinner, Zach. It is a spinner.
It's like cars in the early 2000s.
Yeah, sure it is. It's exactly that, Zach. You're gonna put him there, just Okay. But Icarax kills Botar. I said it for like the 6th time now, and also injures another Order of Matsui agent who was there named Trinuma. Trinuma does manage to escape, and the weapons delivery will be put on another date. Because something is starting to really ramp up. Something's in the works to ramp up now. As the Toa Nuva are finishing up their tasks, like I said, they've got the heart of the Vizirac, which is this gem that can control the Vizirac hordes. They've quelled the volcanoes and all that. They've got the Red Star position. Liwa reappeared after being like, oh yeah, I found a sundial because a voice in my head told me to do it. They do all of this, and finally get teleported suddenly to a chamber where this member Trinuma is, as well as I believe this is where we get introduced to Helryx. Helryx is the first Toa. The very, very first Toa. And Toa Helryx is the leader of the Order of Matanui. She is a Dominator. She's a Toa of water. But she is described in a later book as indescribably old and frail looking. Yes.
But she's still a Toa, not
She
a
is still a
Turaga.
Toa, but she's not a Turaga.
Okay.
Because we also learned, this is something we learned later, is that the transformation into Turaga seems to be a voluntary one. Wherein once you achieve whatever your destiny is, you have the just internal option to become a Turaga after your destiny has been fulfilled. Presumably to, I guess, make Toa stones to grant other people. I don't really know. But I mean, later in the years, when people do like AMAs with Greg Farshti, he would go on to say that, Toa Helryx had fulfilled her destiny forever and a half ago, and she could theoretically just become a Turaga whenever she wanted to. So the transformation in Turaga is met under 2 conditions, it seems, and one of those is the depletion of Toa power, the complete depletion of Toa power, or whereupon you achieve your destiny and you make the conscious decision to become a Turaga. Yes, Jason.
So, last time we learned about the Toa of Air,
Yes, Lesvik.
and you said that he was from the oldest
Yes,
team that we know.
he is from the oldest. He is one of the members of the original, first known Toa team. It was known as the Toa Kordak. But Toa Helryx is the first Toa ever. And we'll go on a little bit later, but Toa Helryx never really had a Toa team. She was just the first Toa and would go on to do a lot of other stuff before Toa were more readily created. So they're there waiting because all of a sudden Botar shows up with the staff of Artaka, and you go, okay, well, how can that be? If Botar was killed by Icarax before Icarax could give the staff of Artaka to Scary Terry, how is it that Botar could then show up and take the staff of Artaka from Brutaka, who is hiding away from Scary Terry, and then bring it over to wherever the hell this place is? And the answer is, they literally just got another member of Botar's race who looks exactly like Botar and whose name is also Botar. No, this is real. This is real.
Is Botar like the Michael Johnson name of
I
his
guess
race?
it's the John Smith. It's the John Doe, the John Smith. The Smith Johnson.
Well, it's only one name, so it should be John.
Yeah, it's just John. He is like the John, I guess. Because they were like, oh yeah, Botar got killed. We need another guy who can do exactly everything he is. So we're going to get another guy who looks exactly like him, almost to a T, whose name is also Botar.
Like every dude on The Bachelor.
And he's not even like Botar 2, Electric Boogaloo. It's just Botar. They just don't really talk about it. They're like, oh yeah, no, it's just original Botar died. This is new Botar. Say hi, new Botar.
I knew Botar.
Hi, new Botar. So that's a fucking thing. So now we can kind of because we're waiting for this to see what the Staff of Artaka actually does. Trinua puts the Staff of Artaka into this pedestal, and they basically explain that the Staff of Artaka will heal all damage that has been done to Motunui due to the Great Cataclysm. It will restore all the continents back together, because we know that Voyanui broke off from Marinui, or Marinui broke off from Voyanui, but Marinui was once part of a bigger continent that's below somehow, but more below than Marinui. But there's structures and places all over the universe that's been destroyed because of the Great Cataclysm. But the Staff of Artaka will heal all of it. So while we are waiting for this to happen, they need the Toa Mari to finish their job. So once again, back in the cord that's connecting up to Marinui, the Toa Mari awaken after having been knocked unconscious, and they're kind of floundering for air. But then they kind of recede back into water as they wake up, and they realize that all of the Matoran have made it out to the top of the cord. Axon is there, and Axon comes to walk down and talk to them and be like, "Hey guys, so there was an explosion down there. I came down, I rescued all the Matoran, I've captured all of the Paraka too, the scary sperms. I've captured all of them, and now that is all complete. You guys are going to have to destroy the cord, and Marinui will be destroyed in the process when you get the Mask of Life." Jala's like, "Okay, that's fine, we know that, but what all we have to do?" And he's like, "You'll understand when the time is right. The time for knowing will come." Exactly. He's like, "But you need to give us enough time for me to get all the Matoran deep, deep, deep underground, where they will be safe. In the meantime, I'm going to lead you back away so you can get down to Marinui a lot faster." And Axon proceeds to jump into the water in the cord and starts swimming down into the underwater flooded sections of the cord, and leads them to a passage that kind of breaks open a wall, and then just uses his axe to shoot out a laser onto a wall that just says "Get in." And before them is a giant, like, I'm trying to think of the best way to word it. It's like a giant underwater centipede, almost. So this giant, massive one, and he like it has like hatches that open up. Like, it is a living being that has been transformed to also serve as like a transport. Yes, Jason.
Did they make a toy of this?
They did, technically. And this is where in the 2007 year for the Lego like minifigures, like little playsets, they did have, I believe it was called a terrain crawler. And that there is a toy for that. But it is not like a full size, like you could have the other like Toa actually sitting in it. So they all get in reluctantly because it's really weird being inside of another living thing.
They're not used to it.
They're just not used to it, guys. Love isn't real. And Axon's like, "Sayonara, suckers." And the terrain crawlers close up and they start going way deep down towards the ocean floor. As they are all sitting there, like, it is like an organic seating and back behind them, and all of a sudden, like, little like organic arms and tendrils start reaching out and grabbing all of the Toa's weapons and armors, because when they showed up originally, Axon was like, "I see you guys must have been in some battles," because all their armor is just completely ripped up and damaged, and their masks are beaten up, and their weapons are all messed up, and so they're sitting here, and their armor is all getting pulled off by this creature that they're in, as well as their weapons, and then after a second, their armor just is brought back and put onto them, but it's completely new. It's completely just like repaired, and their weapons are completely repaired and everything. And they're like, "Wow, what a weird, horrible nightmare fuel thing to just add." Where like it's transport that's alive, but it's weird. So they make their way back down to Marinui. As this is, oh, you know what? I forgot to mention this. Before they go back up the stone quarry, because Mantax and Holly earlier were swimming around together as they were. Hydraxon had been fighting Nocturne, defeated Nocturne, was going to take him captive, saw that Nocturne had the Mask of Life, and went, "This thing is too powerful, I'm going to destroy it." Holly reached out and sent a tidal wave underwater to push the mask out of the way so it didn't get hit by the Kordak blaster from Axon. And Axon's like, "Runner, what are you doing?" And Mantax shows up with her and manages to grab the Mask of Life. And all of a sudden, Hydraxin and Holly become severely weakened. They're the longer that Mantax is around, he's just draining their life force out of them until they both pass out. So Mantax now has the Mask of Life, and goes, "Okay, I have the Mask of Life. I'm the one in charge now." So he tells, before Holly passes out, I think, he tells them to, "Hey, go tell all the Bohrok-Kal warlords that I'm going to be waiting for them. I need to have a discussion with them about this Mask of Life." So they do. All the Bohrok-Kal are generally, while this was happening, Eolic was getting beaten up in a cave by Prydak, who's just carrying chunks out of him by biting him, because the Mask of Life is gone, Nocturne is gone. Where's the Mask of Life? What are we going to do? I don't know! It's more or less revealed then that word gets to them that, hey, Mantax has the Mask of Life. He's calling for a meeting with the Bohrok-Kal warlords. Some of them take it well. Eolic couldn't have been talked to because he was just kind of hiding away because he was mad that Prydak beat him up a little bit. But he found out from Nocturne anyway, and Prydak was just ready to fight. And he was like, "How dare!" So they all meet up while the Toa are going up the Stone Quarry River. So we're in the meeting between the Bohrok-Kal warlords, all sitting there. As this is happening, after Hydraxin gets beat up, Makuta Pterodax in the body of Maxilos meets up and starts walking with Hydraxin and is like, yes, totally, definitely, I'm just regular Maxilos robot. We should go look for the runners." So the meeting between all the Bohrok-Kal warlords is all of them show up. Mantax is sitting at a high vantage point with the Mask of Life. He goes, "All right, guys, I have the Mask of Life. I'm the one in charge now, and we're going to use this to get out of here. But before we do this, we need to have a discussion, because 80,000 years ago, we all got brought here, and nobody knows how the Brotherhood of Makuta figured out that we were going to be trying to take over the world or the universe. None of us know. But I have in my hand here," he holds up a stone tablet, "a tablet of transit. This is basically a get out of jail free card with the Brotherhood of Makuta. It more or less is a pass to let you onto the Brotherhood of Makuta's home island, or say that you are working for them in some capacity. It is to give you safe passage." He says, "This is a tablet of transit. How it got here, I have no idea, but the obvious thing is that one of us must have been the traitor and had this tablet of transit, specifically thinking that they could have gotten out of things. Because if Makuta had killed us, they would have been able to pull this tablet of transit out and save themselves. But we didn't get that opportunity because Botar showed up and just took us away. So before we can do anything, who's the traitor? Who is the traitor? We kill them now, and then we can go on. We can go back to the way things were with the Mask of Life and fix everything." And immediately the Bohrok-Kal warlords start kind of pointing the fingers and asking, who could it be?
Who's sus?
Who's sus? Who's sus? Let me tell you who's sus. Blue sus. Blue very sus. Because Taxidox comes up with his dagger hands and is like, Mantax, you should have just let it drop. You should have just dropped it. What was the thing? You didn't have to come for this, man. It didn't have to come to this. Starts fighting Mantax while the other Bohrok-Kal are kind of in a little bit of disarray. Swap back to the Tomari. They've made their way down to the floor, finally, the sea floor where they're at. They're like, all right, guys, time to go find the Mask of Life. Everyone, let's spread out. As they land there, that little tiny baby Gadunka thing from earlier, now is a huge, giant, irradiated sea monster, has come up, and it said, hey, guys! But he doesn't actually talk, so he can't speak. He's not really intelligent. All of them are like, all right, guys, we're going to split up. Jala and Matoro, we're going to go look this way. Kongu and Kongu, you go this way. Holly and Nuparu will go another way. And Huki's like, I'll stay here and beat up this dude. He's like, I'll beat up this thing, whatever this thing is. I'll beat it up. I'm an athlete. I'm a pro athlete. I'm gonna beat him up. I'm gonna beat him up good. You guys keep going. It'll only take me a few minutes. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Proceeds to get into a fight with Gadunka. And it is very much like he is just trying to make a sport out of it. Like, he's not even trying, really, to defeat it. He's like, I'm not going to use any of my elemental powers. I'm not going to even use my war lance. You know, I'm just going to try and fight this thing. I'm going to try to punch it up a little bit. Which kind of has, like, sometimes it works, sometimes not. He gets kind of beaten up. He wraps his electric chains around Gadunka, because he's chain gang, and electric shocks it, even though it tries to bite onto the chains. Eventually breaks them. One thing leads to another. Basically, he kind of starts getting his ass kicked because of his hubris. Nuparu and Holly come back up to support him and opens up a little tear in the seafloor and just drops Gadunka through it. While all of this is happening, the Maxilos robot finally reveals himself to kind of not be the original Maxilos robot and starts fighting Hydraxin. Hydraxin gets completely sucker punched by Scary Terry. And they have a little good fight. Hydraxin calls for the Spinax, the Energy Hound, to try and fight Scary Terry. Scary Terry reminds him, I have Rahi control, so no you. And basically just makes Hydraxin pass out and then calls heal on Spinax. So he's like, I don't kill him. He's just doing his job. I kind of feel bad for him. You know, like, Hydraxin, whatever. He's not even an issue. And, but also kind of, as they're fighting, he relays the information that Hydraxin is not actually the real Hydraxin. Hydraxin is just a clone created from the body of Dekar, who was a Pomatoran, because the Mask of Light, that whole thing. Which, even then, like, Hydraxin kind of only pseudo-believes this, doesn't really pay much attention to it. It's not important to him, is what I'm getting at. And so, finally, because Makuta is now on the warpath to go get the Mask of Life. And as him and, I'm trying to remember how it happened there. I think when Mantax and Taxox were fighting, they had dropped the Mask of Life and been taken away, and that is when Scary Terry shows up and kind of kicks in the Baraki for a second to take... while him and Hydraxin are kind of fighting. No, Hydraxin comes back later. Takes the mask and is like, yeah, no, this is my mask now. See ya. And then Hydraxin will make his way back in. They start fighting. Matoro and Jala come sweeping in. Because as he is about to... I want to say as Pterodax is about to destroy or kill one of the Baraki, Matoro just flash freezes him, completely encases him in ice, and he's like, "Yep, nope, you don't get to do that. I'm taking this Mask of Life." And Makuta Pterodax kind of reaches out telepathically to talk to Matoro, and he just says, "I'm proud of you," which is a really weird thing because it is also like he has frozen him so solid that Makuta can start feeling his energy start to dissipate and freeze. And if left frozen long enough, it will kill Scary Terry. It will kill Makuta Pterodax, as his energy will just slow to a halt and won't be able to exist anymore. He is then kind of like fading in and out of consciousness, trying to like stay awake and feel, you know, like maybe I can do something. The other Baraki warlords are now kind of pulling together to come fight Jala and Matoro, to which Jala goes, yeah, no, starts making the water boil and throws up a wall of flames all around them to kind of cut the Baraki warlords off, which has the unintended side effect of melting the ice that Scary Terry is in. So Jala has the mask, he's trying to get the mask. Matoro's trying to get the mask. Matoro kind of disappears for a second. Everyone's in this complete, Huki, Holly, Nuparu, Kongu, they're all somewhere else. They're all dealing with Gadunka. They're trying to find stuff. They're making sure everything is all set and good and trying to build enough time so that Axon can put all the Matoran away somewhere deep underground before they destroy Mari Nui. And finally get to the point where The mask kind of goes up in a toss-up. Jala gets ready to kind of like calls for Motoro to come take the mask and grabs Motoro's hand, and they kind of swim away with the Mask of Life now. Motoro has the Mask of Life. Jala has not died and has escaped all the Bohrok-Kal warlords, because as the Bohrok-Kal are about to go step up, Scary Terry shows up again, because he's just been there. And he kind of lets Jala and Motoro go with it. And he's thinking to himself, and he's like, Toa are so one-dimensional. He's like, that's why they can't handle a complex entity like myself. They probably are watching me watch them just get away and can't fathom why I would let them do this. It is at that point that the Bohrok-Kal warlords just go, oh god, there's this robot, man, this bucket of bolts, what's he gonna do? Taxodox is like coming around from the corner wounded, and he's like, no guys, you don't understand. Whatever that thing is, it's not what it says. It's not what it looks like. There's something weird with this one. Prydax steps up and goes, more or less just to make the joke. And Scary Terry goes, Prydax! The last time I saw all of you guys was 80,000 years ago at my feet, before I was about to kill them. And immediately all the Bohrok-Kal are like, it's Makuta. Makuta's, how are you in this? He's like, I know a funny thing. Just I can inhabit different bodies now. And we're like, well, what are you doing here? It's like, that's my business. I don't really have to tell you anything. But right now, I can't have you interfering with my business, so I can't let you pass to go after those Toa. And all the Bohrok-Kal are just, they're just getting consumed by rage at this point. Because right now they have a choice to make. Do they A, try and follow the Toa, get the Mask of Life, and get out of the pit? Or do they B, band together right now to fight their mortal enemy, who is the reason that they all wound up in this place in the first place? I mean, technically, I guess, because the Brotherhood of Makuta came in and swept them. And they all decide, screw the Mask of Life, screw the Toa. We're, like, as warriors, we are fighting Makuta right now. So they all get prepared. They all start coming in and start swinging, and Scary Terry just, like, effortlessly batting them away and fighting him. He's not doing a whole lot of damage. He's just, man, this is great. I almost forgot what this felt like. And Kalma is like, you don't need to tell us. As Bohrok-Kal, we know all about the thrill of battle. And Makuta Pterodax just laughs, and he's like, battle? No. I was talking about winning. And just chain lightnings all of the Bohrok-Kal. And they all fall to the ground. Got him. Got him. So I'm back to Motoro is talking to Jala about all that has just transpired. And finally, he's like, man, we've got the Mask of Life. We're, all this. And Jala starts to have a little bit of heart-to-heart with Motoro. And basically, he was like, Motoro, we've been through a lot lately. And, as avatars of, like, fire and ice, like, traditionally, we don't really get along well. And I gotta say that, maybe I wasn't the best friends with you all the time. But, earlier you were talking about how you're just a translator. You're not a warrior. You're not like, it's like, no, you're none of those things. But that's not what being a Toa is all about. Being a Toa is all about the strength of spirit. And by that metric, you've exceeded all of us on this. And Motoro is just surprisingly really uplifted. He's just like, man, you know what? I really appreciate that. And he starts kind of thinking it out that, they're almost done with their mission. They've got the Mask of Life. They're going to destroy the core. They're going to, bring back Motunui. He's like, man, like, if this is my destiny, I'll probably just, go around and be a Toa more. I'm actually enjoying this now. I have my friends. I'm enjoying being a Toa. I could go on adventures and stuff. I mean, maybe I might even just stay here. Or it's like, the fact that he is, going to be bound underwater is not even an issue for him. He's like, I could just wander the depths forever. Like, just explore. And so he takes this opportunity, because Jala is like, but that's the thing. But he talks about, how he was a secret keeper. But that's the thing with Dora is like, we're friends. Like, you don't have to keep secrets anymore. That's all you've been doing. If that's the way you feel, stop doing it. And so Motoro kind of opens up and reveals he knew that Makuta was in the Maxillow's body. It was there. He gives the whole recount of the whole Nui Stone, Botar, Bertaka coming back, everything. And they both kind of just go quiet. And Jala feels like he should be mad at Motoro because he's been hiding all this really important stuff. But he lets it all go, and he's like, Motoro, I wanted to be mad about this, but I understand everything that you did. You made the right decision, because honestly, if I was in your situation, I probably would have done the same thing. or even if then, like, I don't know if I could have, and I'd probably be dead. So you did the right thing in handling that how you did, and now we're almost done. So meet up with all of the Toomari again, and they decide that they're gonna, like, they're aiming their shots, they're looking at the cord, and they're like, all right, Huki, you're the master of stone here. Where do we need to shoot? And he goes, up, right there. He's like, all right, guys, you ready? He's like, yeah, we'll do this, and then we'll just get back to Metro New. It'll be good times. As they're about to fire, the Gadunka shows back up, pulls itself out of the ground. The 300-foot-long venom eel from earlier, way earlier, has come back, and the 200-foot-long Eldritch Abomination that Kongu had summoned to save them earlier has also showed up, and all three of them are best friends now, and immediately start coming to attack the Toomari, predominantly because the Gadunka is like, ooh, shiny mask, shiny, shiny, make me shiny, give me shiny. And he wants the mask. So immediately all the Toomari are like, all right, guys. And he's like, it'll take 30 seconds. Then they all show up and they're like, all right, guys, scratch that. It'll take like 45 seconds after we deal with these guys. Toomari immediately engage in battle with these undersea entities. The outcomes of which, for the most part, Kongu summons a bunch of fish to show up, and they're like bioluminescent, and they're completely ineffectual. The 200-foot-long monstrosity just eats them. And they're like, oh man, that was horrible. Is there anything else you can summon? And Kongu's like, what? So you just eat another thing? Holly goes, no, I have a better idea. They were using bioluminescence, so we can make this to our advantage. So Holly makes herself, using the mask of Kindred, to make herself bioluminescent and starts swimming around through the sea at high speeds while the 200-foot-long abomination starts following her underneath like this giant like rock overpass underneath, and leads it through, and then I believe it's Nuparu and Huki, I think, start gunning it down and just destroy the rock, and it just all tumbles down, and basically they're like, I don't think it killed that thing, but hopefully it's just gonna keep it busy for right now. Huki then goes and uses his massive gravity to shut the 300-foot-long venom eel's jaws and float it, because he thought about, like, I could just tie this thing up in a knot. I could do that. But then he was like, you know what? No, like, this place is about to become really super uninhabitable and dangerous. So he just decides to reduce the weight of the eel, make it float up high enough to where the currents of the ocean will catch it, and just, when Holly pushes with the water, the currents to make it just travel way the hell away, where it won't, because it to the point where it can't even fight the currents, because it's so just caught into there. Meanwhile, Motoro has kind of been knocked out. He had the Mask of Life, does not have it anymore, because Gadunka has showed up, and Gadunka's like, ooh, mask for me, grabs it. Unfortunately, the mask is extremely angry, because the mask is like, no, I want Motoro to have me. I don't want Gadunka, I want Motoro. Like an angry child who just didn't get the right Bionicle he wanted. And as it was not Gadunka's destiny to touch the mask twice, the mask reduces Gadunka into an embryo. It just devolves him in like an instant into like an egg, basically.
Fucking weird, man.
Yeah, the Mask of Life is just like, no, you don't get to touch. And they're like, all right, guys.
So why did it let Mantax touch it?
Because for whatever reason, that was Mantax's destiny to be able to touch it for them. Okay. Like, there is like, in the same way that Energized Protodermis doesn't seem to have a lot of whole rhyme or reason, you're either just destined to be able to do Energized Protodermis, or you're not destined. And even then, like, maybe you're destined to be twice, maybe only once. Who knows? Same thing with the Mask of Life, to a degree, without the mask just giving you some super fucked up curse. Or if the mask just designates you as a guardian for it. Motoro is just destined. The mask is just foreseen this as the thing. So alright, they're all good. They're going to get ready to blast down the cord. As this is happening, Makuta has just been kind of like kicking sand at the Baraki at his feet and go, man, you guys weren't all that much at all. He's like, by now the Toa are probably almost out of here. And as he's saying this, the Baraki all start rising to their feet. And they're all just getting ready. And Makuta Pterodax notices that basically all of their armies of undersea creatures have finally made it and are converging. He's like, oh, you guys are a lot stronger than I thought. You guys were just buying time so you could bring your armies. And
But Rahi control.
but Rahi control, I know. And so the Bohrok-Kal goat this ends now. He's like, what are, and so Makuta, they're like, well, what do you believe in? Because this is like 1,000 to 1 fight right now between all the 6 Bohrok-Kal warlords, the undersea, Rahi beast to come fight, and versus 1 Scary Terry. Scary Terry goes, right now I'm looking at my destiny, and there's no running from it. And boom, giant clash, giant battle between the Bohrok-Kal's forces and Makuta Pterodax. Unfortunately, this does not go well for Scary Terry, because as the Toamari are about to start shooting the cord, or as they are, they're about ready to, all of a sudden, on the horizon, is the Bohrok-Kal and all of their forces swimming at fast pace. They're like, all right, guys, we don't have time. We got to go quick. And so they line up their shots, they fire off their Kordak blasters, destroy the cord, which Mari Nui just immediately starts to begin sinking, Voya Nui starts to become sinking into the water at a rapid pace. And they're like, all right, guys, we don't have a lot of time. We got to go find, they were saying that there's going to be a hole in the ocean floor where the island will fit through, and that's where we need to go. We need to get there before the island does, or we'll be trapped out. I'm like, okay, cool. So they start trying to outswim an island traveling under the ocean while also being chased by the Bohrok-Kal and all of their swarms. As they are going, they are swimming, they're going so fast and hard, but all of the Toa except for Motoro are starting to slow down. Motoro is the only one who's able to keep like he can feel his muscles ache, he feels like his lungs are just hurting. I mean, he has more gills than lungs now. But the point stands that he is just being propelled by some almost otherworldly force, while the other Toa are starting to straggle behind, and it's still a race against time. They're trying to make it past this island, and they're going, and then all of a sudden, the world just stops for a moment. In this moment, there is a cold that is felt in every living being, unlike any Toa of ice could ever make. And it is in this moment that every being in the Matoran universe knows and feels Matanui has died. It is too late. They ran out of time, and there's presumably nothing they can do. And Motoro just stops. And all the other Toa swim up, and they're like, Motoro, what is it? And he's like, you guys feel it too. Matanui has died. And they're like, so what do we do now? Do we just surrender ourselves to the Bohrok-Kal? And they're like, maybe we can use the Mass of Life or something? And one of them's like, well, maybe we
know
just...
what they can do?
Yes, what's
They
that?
collect the 7 Dragon Balls.
Yes, they could. Unfortunately, the Dragon Balls aren't... They don't have new Namek to have the Dragon Balls in the... They only have old Namek, which was destroyed. And those Dragon Balls are gone, unfortunately. So they're all kind of just standing around to do. Behind them, not even very far, the Bohrok-Kal and their forces all coming en masse. And you can, in the distance, Makuta Pterodax is laying on the ground. His broken, robot body of Maxwell is trying to stand up, and he can sense that Matanui has died. But he knows that if Toa are one thing, it's that they have an unreal sense of perseverance. And that only a Toa would be able to continue on in this situation. And that you could almost call it a prayer that they would complete their mission and know that they would be able to go through with it. So right now, we're going to take a quick break and then come back and finish this up. Cool. All right, we're back from break time, boys. Break time. Okay, as promised, I do have here Toa Lezovic, last surviving member of the first Toa team, on his little sea sled that has little fold-out things there. And he's got his mounted Kordak blaster here. Does come with an air blade. You can take him off and stuff. But it's pretty neat. Like I said, it's one of those things where it's like they made Karzani and Lezovic. I believe they were both Toys R Us exclusives, I think. One was Toys R Us, one was Walmart. But they literally only made toys for them because they were in, the one cereal story. And then just they're like, yeah, and then Karzani just goes off somewhere, and we never see him again because he got taken somewhere, and Lezovic also does. We just goes off, we never see him again, so rip Lezovic. That means we can get to the next part of the story. So we're picking up, and I'll set him here. I'll explain later. Cool. So Matanui has died. The Toa Mari are trying to figure out what to do. All hope is presumably lost. They're like, we are too late. We are just there's just nothing we can do. And Matoro goes, no, I refuse. And all the other Toa Mari are like, Matoro, what are you talking about? He's like, no, there has to be some way. There must be something we can do. There is like, Toa, don't give up. We can still fix this somehow. We've got the mask of life. It's the mask of life. We can fix this somehow. We just have to keep going. And all of the other Toa look at Matoro. They look at the distance of the Baraki are coming on them and go, no, Matoro, we can't. But you can. Matoro's like, what are you guys talking about? And it is in that moment that Matoro understands that all of the other Toa Mari are basically committing themselves to their own death. They're going to stay behind and buy time for Matoro, fighting off the Baraki, and will most definitely die. And Matoro is almost at a loss of words. In a moment that should have had so many words said, nothing was said. All that was exchanged was fist bumps between all of the members of the Toa Mari team. Huki says, make sure they write a lot of good stories about us. I don't want to go out without anybody ever hearing all of my accomplishments. And Holly is like, make sure they pick a good chronicler when you get back, maybe a Komatoran, just to kind of change things. And it's this very melancholy moment, but Matoro, they kind of do their fist bump thing, they salute each other, and then Matoro just starts swimming off. And he is swimming as fast as he possibly can, being propelled, and he is following where because you can see at the sea floor, this giant hole, this chunk in the sea floor that looks exactly like the shape that Voyanui could fit through, and starts chasing after it. And he's going there. The island just pushes down through the sea floor, and he is still swimming past it. But he notices as he is that the walls look different. The walls on the side of where this hole is in the seafloor, they don't look natural. They look almost like they're like metallic or something. It's just not it's not like regular bedrock. And as this is all going on, the Baraki catch up and the fight begins. And the Toa Mari are fighting the Baraki warlords and their army. They're using their different elemental abilities, they're using their mass powers, they're putting up the good fight and losing very badly. It's getting to a point where they're literally just trying to talk each other up and just see how long they can last. They know the inevitable is coming. They're just trying to buy enough time for Matoro. And as this is going on, Jala is already looking at, the situation. Kongu's been taken out, Holly's been, hit over here, Huki and Parg, and he's kind of looking at it like, okay guys, he's like, I'm gonna go Nova. I'm gonna Nova Blast this. As we talked about before, a Nova Blast is the expulsion of all stored elemental energy within a Toa for a massive attack. As a Toa of fire, a Nova Blast would be an all-consuming, just fire blast in all directions. Jala is basically going to kamikaze the entire Baraki army and the Toa. And the other Toa go, that this will he's like, that this will probably kill us, right? And Jala's like, yes, but we're probably going to die anyway, and it'll kill all of their forces too. And so they go, all right, we'll buy you time so you can start charging up. Jala starts charging up the Nova Blast. Matoro is swimming deeper and harder and harder. All he's focused on is if he can get this mask to the destination, save Matanui, resurrect him, maybe he can save his friends. The island falls through the floor, and all of a sudden, Matoro realized he is coming down a giant waterfall. And he is going at high velocity. He's in midair, going down. The island is also like dropping from midair out of this waterfall down further, and he's looking down in front of him from the sky in this waterfall and sees this giant mass of landmass below. And he goes, that must be the southern continent. The southern continent is the largest landmass in the Matoran universe. And like bear with me, this is hard to conceptualize. But we have, so originally we had Motunui. Beneath Motunui is Metronui. And then there's a bunch of islands over here, like Curzonian, stuff like that. Voyanui is on the same water level as Motunui. But beneath that was Marinui. It's all underwater. So somewhere between like Motunui and Metronui is this ocean of water where Voyanui is. But now the island of Voyanui has fallen through the water of where Marinui was. It is falling presumably through whatever distance here, as with Matoro. And so he sees what is basically a giant missing chunk of landmass that fits more or less where Voyanui probably originally was on the southern continent. And beneath that he sees like a large light emitting from the land. And he's like, that's where I have to go. And starts just increasing his velocity, trying to he's trying to outfall a giant island in the sky. And it's falling. He's getting closer. And all of a sudden, he makes it past the landmass to where the giant land is, where there is a hole in it, in this giant continent, where this light is emitting from, and falls in through another hole, and all of a sudden, he is just free falling. There's another waterfall he's coming in from. So there's waterfall, then there's another waterfall. There's waterfall, landmass, waterfall. It's very weird. It's falling in the air, and he's like, this is it. He gets the feeling, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is where the massive light is supposed to be. What do I do with it? And he starts to kind of laugh, because he's like, he's finally Matoro has made it to the destination that they were trying to get to with the massive light. He has the massive light in his hands, and he has, in this moment, no idea what he's supposed to do. A black-winged creature just flies by him real quick, but he doesn't even have time to register it. He's still, and all of a sudden, a voice in his mind tells him, put on the mask. Put on the mask of life. And Matoro, he doesn't have time to ask questions. And so Matoro puts on the mask of life. In this moment, Matoro feels his body just irradiate with energy. He understands he's putting on the mask of life. He's about to become so much less than what he is, and yet infinitely more than he was. By putting on the mask of life, he is going to be absorbed by the mask of life and turned into energy that will resurrect Motunui. And he's fine with this. He has accepted this. Matoro has accepted that this is his destiny. Turaga once said that the universe is a mystery. And he is a mystery that is ever looking for an answer. And Matoro said, the universe, and Matoro in this moment goes, Turaga was right. The universe is the mystery. And today, I am the answer. I am the answer to the universe. And he's already feeling like he's slowly turning into like this ethereal light. He's losing his like physical form. He's already all feeling of pain and anguish is being wiped away from his body. He's already losing, he can't even remember what feeling hungry or what feeling cold or what feeling tired is anymore. All that is this feeling of this warmth and light. But there is one feeling that he is not letting go. And he's fighting against the mask from letting it go. And that is his friends. Because this is for the first time, he feels like he really made a lot of good friends. And there they are, out in some water, all alone, where no one will ever know that they are, sentenced to their own deaths. And he can't deal with that. He's like, my life is a price, fine. I don't care. I accept my duty. I accept my destiny. My life for Motunui, that's fine. But the lives of my friends, that's too much to ask. That is too tall of an order. I will not accept this. And immediately pushes his consciousness back against the mask of life demanding its use of power, demanding to take control of its power so that he can use it. The mask, for its own reasons, acquiesces to this. And the mask starts to think about that long ago, there was another time when the Mask of Life had to be used to heal Motunui, and a Toa wore the mask and it, took the life of the mask, but that Toa was filled with regret and was, filled with fear when it came to this realization, but not Motoro. Motoro is completely at peace with this. He has accepted his destiny and embraced it gratefully, and because of this, he like in a brave way that the mask could not really fathom, and because of this, decided to give Motoro its powers. Jal and the other Toa are in the waters of Mari Nui. The Iraqi are all closing in. Prydak has noticed and seen what Jala is doing and commands all the forces to go headlong, destroy Jala before he goes nuclear. Jala is about to release the Nova Blast, and all of a sudden he hears, "Jala, open your eyes and don't let the blast go." And Jala stops and just takes everything he can to absorb to stop the internal flow of all the elemental energy goes back to release. He opens his eyes and realizes that all the Toa Mari are on land. They are in Metro Nui. And they can breathe on land. They don't have to use, they can breathe in air now. They don't have to use, they're not something else. They've been summoned, and they go, "Wait, where are we?" He's like, we're on Metro Nui. We made it. He's like, Motoro must have done it. Motoro must have succeeded. And they're like, "Great, awesome." And they're like, "Where's Motoro? There's 5 of us here. We all made it except for, where is Motoro?" And it all starts to dawn on them, because as Motoro has, commanded the mask to teleport his friends back to Metro Nui, to remove the mutation that made them so they were forced to breathe underwater. They still have their Toa Mari forms. They are no longer in Nika. That is a permanent mutation. Motoro gives in and finally becomes one with the mask. The mask uses the energy to, in the middle of Motoro's freefall, in this giant cavern, this cavernous space with a bunch of stalactites everywhere, all of a sudden, the world is just lost in a bright light that seems to permeate the entirety of the Matoran universe. This massive, overwhelmingly blinding light, and Motunui is resurrected. Life is brought back into the universe, and everyone can feel that. And the Toa Mari come to the realization that Motoro isn't there anymore. That if he wasn't there with all of them, the mask worked, but he's not there. The mask claims Motoro's life for this. As this is going on, the Matorans start pouring in around them because they see the Toa Metru, and they're like, or not the Toa Metru, the Toa Mari, like, the Toa are back. Well, there's a new Toa. And they realize that they're Holly and Jala and everybody, and they all start cheering. The Turaga all come out. They're like, "You guys did it! You did it! You're great!" And Nuju just runs out. He, for the first time in millennia, is just shouting and cheering in joy in the common tongue. He's not speaking birds' whistles. They did it! And he runs out and doesn't see Motoro. And he's like, "Where's Motoro?" And all the Toa Mari are like, we don't know, but we think." And Vakama walks up and goes, "You already know what Motoro's fate is. I've seen what his destiny was in my visions. And Motoro has completed his destiny at a great cost for him." And they all kind of take a somber moment to reflect on this as time goes. Nuju, they basically all decide they're going to have a giant memorial for Motoro. They have a giant stone statue of him erected. Holly and the other Toa are going to go out and speak on behalf of this. And meanwhile, Turaga Nuju just stays in his house. No lights. He just sits in darkness, and he feels lost because he's looking at it. Once again, Komatoran are very analytical. They're very, practicality, and everything is, specific. It's illogical to whatever. And he feels very sad. But he feels like it's illogical to feel so sad about everything with Motoro. He was, after all, just another Toa. But in one Toa's life, for the price of the universe is not that much, right? So why should he be sad? But then he thinks, no, that is too high of a price. It is too high of a price for a Toa. If the Great Spirit Motunui is so great, why does he need a Toa to sacrifice, a brave warrior to sacrifice their life just so he can live again? What is the point in that? If he's such a great spirit, why does he need this?
And then he posts his thesis and goes into the door.
But then he realizes that is just the way the universe works, unfortunately, and that realistically, at the end of the day, Motunui, the end result is they're not all gonna die. The universe still exists, even if it means that he lost a good traveler, a good Toa, who was a good translator of Matoran, but most importantly, a friend. And so that pretty much concludes everything in Downfall. Rip.
Some Toa there.
So, I know, right?
You break it, you buy it.
Listen, I didn't.
Was that the downfall?
That was the Downfall.
Okay.
Right there. You saw it happen. That was
the Toro.
No, that's him. This is Bionicle Jesus right here. This is the best boy in Bionicle canon. He is Bionicle Jesus, who died for our sins so that Motunui would be resurrected and the universe won't end. But the end of the book is, more or less, it goes back to the Toa Nuva blog, where as all of this is going on, the Mask of Life is being used is getting ready to be used. When they broke the stone cord, they put the Staff of Artaga into place and activated the Staff of Artaga, which is what caused the island to fall underwater and back into place and all of that. And after that, the Toa Nuva have been teleported to a giant fortress somewhere, where they are just standing around looking at this giant fortress. Matoran workers are all around, and they see the Toa show up, and immediately start running off and hiding, and all of a sudden, the Toa Nuva start to approach this giant gate. And they hear a thunderous voice going, "Who are you, and why have you come here?" And it suddenly dawns on all of the Toa Nuva where they must be. And Toa Nuva pipes up, and he's like, "This is the island of Artaka, isn't it?" Which would make you, the voice talking to us, Artaka, the great creator. And all of a sudden, rains start coming down suddenly. A giant snowstorm that freezes the Toa in place. There's snow up to their knees, just out of nowhere, just starts coming in. The voice goes, it's this is a place that has long been hidden from the rest of the world, where visitors have not entered here in millennia. What have you done to deserve the right to be here? And so Toa Nuva proceeds to explain and tell all of the things they have done to prepare for Motunui's reawakening. And even then, he's asking questions, and Kopaka Nuva is just being cool as ice, and he goes, all right, he's like, we've come here for weapons and armor to help. He's like, or maybe we've come to the wrong place if you can't actually talk to us and just want to hide behind closed doors. And the thunderous voice is like, there is steel in your words. Perfect. You Toa have all done well, and thus I give to you my greatest creation ever. And he grants, all of a sudden the Toa Nuva get new armor with new weapons. He says, this is my greatest creation. Completely proto-steel armor with proto-steel weapons. It is adaptive armor with new masks that are also made of proto-steel that will adapt to whatever environment you ever go to, so that it will always be of use to you. Whether you find yourself under sea, or in the air, or in a desert, or in a volcano, the armor will adapt to its environment to help better benefit you. And the Toa Nuva are like, sick! Well, thanks for this and all, but Bohachi was like, couldn't you come join the fight too? We hear you're really strong and legendary. It would be great to have you come with us. And Artaka goes, no, that's not my place right now. But it is yours. And suddenly, the Toa Nuva are teleported and are suddenly in midair. And that will pretty much close out things on the Toa Nuva blog. And that pretty much covers everything for the... what did I have written here? Oh, no, that's just Zach. He wrote something there. We can't read what that says.
Busted.
It says,
Yeah.
yeah. We can't read that.
It's TOS friendly.
Is it though? Is it though? I don't think we have enough.
Oh, well, that's not a derogatory term anymore. It's a term of empowerment.
Oh,
Right?
yes. Fist raised everywhere.
Wait, fist raised?
Yeah. No, I feel like no. I feel like it would be fists. I feel like
fist if you're.
Priscilla's not here, so.
Fun fact: in Brazil, when their politicians swear in, it used to be on a Bible, so they just put their hand out like this to mimic it. They don't actually do it on a Bible. But there's a really weird trend, I swear to God, where the right-winger ones, they do it at a 45-degree angle, while the left-winger ones do it at this. My friend from Brazil, I sent him a picture because they have a really hot Brazilian politician. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? And then he had to explain to me, he's like, very hard to explain. It has nothing to do with the Nazis. It's just, it's a weird
It's Brazil, not Argentina.
Yes.
Totally different. All right, so this will bring us to the end of 2007. Really dark year, but now we get to go back to the Toa Nuva, which we haven't seen in forever. We also get sick new redesigns finally, starting with Toa Liwa Nuva, who gets completely new redesign. They get new weapons. They get Mighty Sky Blaster. I'll have Kohata Nuva, his redesign with his adapter armor, as well as Kopaka Nuva. Matoro, you can go back in the box. You go to the bye-bye box now. Because all the Toa Nuva are suddenly floating midair. 2007 was also the year, I think, that so in this time between 2006 and 2007, they also started releasing some more world lore books. Like they released Bionicle World, I think is what it's called. It's a book. It's basically just a comprehensive guide of like all the different islands and some Matoran myths and fables. Before that, I forgot to mention that there was a book in 2006. I think it was 2006 as well. That was the Shadowed One's Guide to Dark Hunters, and it's literally just in the same way we had like the Guide to Rocky. It was like a catalog of all these Dark Hunter entries because once again they had another thing where you could show your ideas for Dark Hunters, tell us what their abilities are, tell us what the names are, and they wrote a lot of those into lore. But it's all written from the perspective of the Shadowed One. It's kind of weird. Yeah, man, 2007 was dense. And 2008 is also equally dense because we're going to have a bunch of more serial stories to work through. Once again, 3 books. I think it's 5 or 6 comics. And it is the end of the Ignition trilogy. So we start in book 9, which once again I'll have the new whiteboard. I forgot to bring it this time. I'll have it next time here. Book 9, Shadows in the Sky, starts off a week in advance to all the things that have just happened. For the perspective, everything that happened with Mari Nui in 2006 happens in the span of about a week. Is about how long it takes. So we start a week ago in this giant cavernous space where Matoro was falling into earlier. There's giant stalactites on the ceiling of this giant cavern, but even then some of these stalactites have fallen, and Matoran have built villages on the tops of these stalactites that have fallen. Beneath that, down below, is a giant swamp that water has been fed in through from a giant waterfall that permeates from the roof of this cavern. And so Matoran are just kind of hanging around doing their thing, doing Matoran things. These are Av-Matoran. We haven't gotten to actually talk about these guys yet, because we talked about before how like there's a bunch of different Matoran, they're all different elemental. We have Matoran of fire, water, the original 6. And then we found out that there's also Matoran of like sonics, and Matoran of gravity, and Matoran of psionics, and Matoran of all the things that the Bohrok-Kal had.
So there's also
plasma.
Matoran of ass? What?
No. Bohrok actually don't have any ass.
Oh.
They do have
You said they're Asmatoran? What are they?
Av-Matoran.
Oh.
AV. Av is the prefix for light beings. These are all Matoran of light. Really weird. Why haven't we seen these guys before? The answer is they all live only in this one spot that is known as Carda Nui. It is also referred to as the world that feeds the world. Because, I mean, it's a massive landmass here that stretches out, and the ceiling of this cavern is so high you can't even really see it. The only way you really even know where this was is because there's this giant waterfall just pouring water in from the top and flooding out what was at one point a giant desert that is now turned into a swamp. And so these Avmatoran are just hanging around. Interesting fact about the Avmatoran being Matoran of light, can change the color of their armor to whatever color they want, since they can control the way that people perceive wavelengths of light. Therefore, they can kind of camouflage them as whatever type of Matoran.
Rainbow Matoran.
Pretty much. Now, additionally, Avmatoran while most other Matoran have no elemental ability, they might have some kind of related elemental affinity. We talked about Bohrok, like Automatoran are more heat resistant, Komatoran are more cold resistant, but they don't really have any elemental abilities. Avmatoran are an exception to this. They can actually create elemental projectiles of light to shoot at things. This is pretty interesting. Unfortunately for them, a bunch of Makuta have finally found their way into Cardinui. A vanguard of 7 Makuta have made their way in and have started an all-out assault on all the villages of Cardinui.
Who's leading the van?
Who is leading the van? Good question. That would be this boy right here. Because he is red, he's also the immediate leader as the story goes. It's more coincidental on this. But this is Antros. He is a Makuta. This is where we get introduced to actually more toys of the different Makuta. In the first half of the 2008 story year, it's divided between the Fantoka and the Mystica. So the Fantoka, they basically did 3 Toa Nuva and 3 Makuta, and then the Mystica, they did the other 3 Toa and the other 3 Makuta. So starting with, because they're all flying around, the Makuta have shape-shifted themselves to have more like bat and winged appearances. So that's why they all look like weird bat creatures. You have Antros, who wears the Kanohi Jutlin, I believe, which is the mask of, I think it's corruption. Basically, the ability is he can target any structure, organic or otherwise, and cause it to rot, or just break down at an atomic level. Yes.
Shigaraki?
Yeah, pretty much. He is pretty much the Shigaraki of the Makuta here. Followed by one of the other Fantoka line Makuta, Chirox, who wears the Kanohi Shielik, I believe, which is the mask of... It's not mask of stealth. It more or less, it just makes other people deaf. It makes them lose the ability to hear. So it doesn't make you quiet in the same way that the Mask of Silence does, but it just causes other people to not be able to hear. So it targets somebody else, not self-target. From behind them, we already said Makuta Ikarax will show up. But with them, because what they have, the big thing for the Makuta to attack with are their rib cages open here, and they drop out these little orange balls that are called Tridax pods. The orbs can be dropped, and they kind of split open, and inside of them are these tiny little blue thingies. These are shadow leeches. And shadow leeches have the ability to just latch on any being and eat the elemental light out of them, which will eventually turn them into beings of darkness. This is where the Makuta have just been doing this for a few weeks now, since they found their way into Cardinui, have been bombing tons and tons of Avmatoran villages and converting the Matoran to the Shadow Matoran, as they were, where they take on a corrupted appearance. They get little bat wings as well, so they can fly around. This is Radiac. Up here is Kirpop. who is, if I remember correctly, was the leader of the Avatar villages, if I remember correctly. But yeah, turned into a Shadow Matoran, works with the Makuta now. They're working to corrupt all of the other Matoran. Really not good. Unfortunately, as and the other Makuta from the Fantoka line is Gavla? No, it's God, what's his name? He's blue one. Vampra, that's it. Who looks very, very much more bat-like. Like all of these Makuta have very like bat-like features, masks, and the weird teeth and the wings. They all have different wings too, which is really neat. That was a really cool thing with all of as we'd seen before, like we had like the Anika and the Anika all kind of look pretty much the same as color swap palettes. The Toa Metro designs all kind of look the same, just a little bit of color palette swaps. Not really a lot of different pieces. But man, the Mystica, or all of them, honestly, all of the 2008 ones, with the exception of the Toa. Definitely the Makuta won out on the who has more variety in their actual pieces and appearances. Makuta's designs are so cool. As well as the Shadow Matoran as well. So they're flying around, and all of a sudden, Chirox flies by a white Toa just falling through the sky. Weird. That's weird. How's that happen? And all of a sudden, a giant light comes out of nowhere. So the remaining Matoran in the Avatar village who haven't been corrupted yet all kind of like see that something's about to happen. They all shield their eyes and duck. But even then, it's described that the light is so bright and powerful that it permeates even through their closed eyes and hands. And they can still see the light happening. Like, it's pretty much the equivalent of an atomic bomb going off. And the light is so blinding, and all the Makuta were flying around, that they didn't see it until it was too late. It was so intense that it actually just blinds all of the Makuta permanently. The three Makuta that are flying around, Vampra, Antraz, and Chirox, permanently blind now. They cannot see at all. They're completely relying on things like echolocation, and also they found out is that they can use some of the Matoran to ride on their backs and be used as a second set of eyes by using their ability to read the minds of other people and just see through them. And so that was why one of the features of the Mystica line is that you had it where you could like attach the Matoran onto the backs of them. I'm trying to remember actually how this. I don't think this is correctly put on there. I don't remember how to put these on. I don't know. But yeah, they basically just fly on the backs of them. It's super crazy. Yes.
You're telling me they're not the Matoran of ass, but they do that?
Yeah, I guess, man. I'm trying to honestly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's sus. It is kind of sus. But yeah, so that was one of the mechanics you could do, is that they would fly around on the backs of the Makuta there. Yes.
So did the corrupted Matoran, did they come with the bigger Bionicles, or were they on the sets?
No, they were separate. So they were separate smaller sets. Because like every year they would come with like the main big canisters and then like some smaller sets to kind of accompany them. This year it was the Matoran being like the accompanying sets. And then on the Toa side of things, once again we had Toa Liwa, Kopaka, and Pohatu, which also had some pretty great neat designs too. They also have generally, they've got like little jetpacks or some other form of propulsion, as our adaptive armor lets them do. And then new versions of their masks, really cool. An interesting point to note is that so the Toa also get their own like Matoran to work with them too. Whatever the new mask is considered to be the Great Kanohi version. Whatever the masks that the Matoran they're working with are wearing is the noble version of that Kanohi mask. So you can kind of get
the Turaga version?
Yes, exactly. I mean, as far as that's how it's carved. So it's like, that's kind of neat. That's why and much the same way as with what's it called? The Makuta, you have like, with Kirpop, you have what is basically a noble Kanohi Shelik, and the
Great.
Chirox has the great Kenobi shield chair. So that's why the masks kind of look similar enough, but just different. Same thing with Antros and Radii. And so on and so forth. So, all of a sudden, like, really cool designs, really great. The Toa are consistently kind of poo-pooed on for the 2008 year because they went with this gray scheme for all of the Toa. It was like gray and silver, so it was basically gray and whatever color they would choose for the Toa. Kopaka was obviously white. Toa Liwa, they went with lime green with everything, which is already the bane of everyone's existence. Pohatu was not brown this time. He's orange now. And
Aren't
then,
you glad he's not brown?
Orange you glad he's not brown? Say I'm bad. Listen, man, everyone was shitting on me last week and telling me that I'm trash, and I'm just sitting here like, man, I don't call you guys out when you guys are being trash. Just bullying me. The Mystica line, which would come out in the later 2008 story year, we get new revamps of Toa-Tahu with a new type of blaster. You can already see where it's like the red and silver, or Toa Onua. I do not have Toa Gali, but I will try and see if I can get Toa Gali here in the next week or two. And then there's some other Makuta there, of which the only one I have is, at the time of this, is Makuta Gorast, which is like this, it's supposed to be 4 arms, but the claws I lost on the top here for the second set, and a different blaster here. But yeah, so pretty neat stuff. Pretty neat. We've got some really cool, neat original design pieces and stuff. Like, wasn't as excited for this stuff. Like, I mean, the Bohrok-Kal obviously though were super cool as far as design wise, because they just came out of nowhere with these like really like almost like skeletally small builds for the bodies, but a bunch of really cool, neat pieces on them that just made them so wildly different. And then the Toa all kind of look the same for the most part. It's whatever. They gave Jella a crab. They gave Kongu 2 guns. Yes.
I'm sorry, who gave Jolly crabs?
Oh,
Thought love didn't exist, Danny.
it does not. It does not. But crabs are very real. They're dangerous.
Yeah, there's a reason I got like 3 of the Bohrok-Kal and just
nope. Yeah, like I said, it's just. I mean, the Titans are pretty cool though. Like Hydraxid and Maxwell's, they're pretty dang cool. So continuing the story, we flash forward a week where the Avatar have basically been trying to lead a resistance, fighting off the Makuta, just trying not to get hit. But all of a sudden, you know, as they're sitting there, so there's a Matoran clad in green. His name is Tanma. Tanma is more or less the kind of impromptu leader now. Along with him is Solik, who wears white armor because he is the #1 best Kopaka fanboy ever. Because they're hiding in this shack, and he's like, we shouldn't be hiding here. We need to go out there. We need to fight the Makuta. Or we need to fight whatever those monsters are. We need to say that because that's what Toa would do. That's what the Toa were here. If Kopako is here, and Liwa, and Gali, and Pohatu, and Onua, and Tahu, if they were all here, they would do so much to be cool. And Tanma's like, look, okay, you keep saying that there were these Toa guys here before. I've never seen them here. I have no idea. I have no remember there. But even if that's true, where are they now? Why aren't they helping us here? All of a sudden, 6 Toa Nuva are just magically transported in midair. In Cardanui, as this assault is going on. And they're just looking, they're like, whoa, we're in midair. And Kopaka's like, hey, better question, how are we staying in midair? And they all look and see that their new adaptive armor pieces are letting them float and kind of fly in the air. Yes, Jason.
So is this like from one of the comics?
No.
This particular part of the story?
No, this is from the book.
Okay, so there's no visuals?
There is visuals of this in the comic. So the comics, once again, they do this kind of pseudo, like, most of the time are just, they take what the book said and then illustrate it, but then other times they'll add some stuff that wasn't in the book.
Okay, so they obviously only released toys for 3 of the Toa in each of the
yes.
one of the other forms, but are there like visual depictions of all 6 as both?
So what is interesting is that there aren't, and it is interesting that they have divided what is considered to be the Fantoka augment and the Mystica augment. However, both augments allow the Toa to fly freely. And so there are people who will say that they're separate, but even in the books, they never mention when they talk to because I'm about to explain right here, but basically the Toa teams will split up. Fantoko, the team will stay in the air doing stuff. The Mystica team will go down below into the swamps. So that would be why they would need to change habitat or whatever. But in the books, they never acknowledge that the Toa who went from above to below, that their armor changed. So while there is some reason to believe that like this is the Mystica augment, this is the Fantoka augment, there is nothing for me to really sit here, per the wording of the books and the source material we have, to believe that it isn't just the same augments. That it's not just the same thing. It's just the only reason we look at it as two different things. They came out in two different parts of the storyline and had two different brandings. But there was nothing for me to believe that because as far as we know, the weapons are still the same. The weapons that they wield when they are, because the Toa Nuva will go back above and below, and it's never mentioned that their weapons change from the time they were above or below, or that their armor has changed when they go above or below. So it is my personal belief that these are all just the Cardinui, we'll call them the Cardinui augment to their armor.
So do the Mystica have
because even then,
like some sort of propulsion?
Yeah, if you look at like
Kopaka and Lewa have literal jet.
Yeah, so does Toatagu. He's got little jet engine things right here.
Okay.
Even with Onua, he's got little jet boosters on his legs and little like God, what are these called? Fins to kind of make them more aerodynamic. So there's enough reason for me to believe that that is just what their Cardinui augment is, not so much what the Fantoka or what the Mystica augments are, because it is all part of Cardinui. Regardless of whether they're air and swamp, they never acknowledge that they changed again. Like so that is just my personal take on it. Per all the source material, there's nothing there for me to say that, oh yeah, no, it's just completely different now. It's two sets of complete, like, we never saw we can never know what the Mystica versions of Lewa, Kopaka, and Pohatu would look like. I think it's just the same thing. I think the only reason we look at it is because it came out in two different branded sets, as opposed to the same thing. So the Toa Nuva drop in, see what's going on, and immediately go, hey, I don't know where we are, but those giant bat things, those probably aren't good guys. Let's go blast them up. Toa Nuva immediately start going into fight. The Makuta are like, oh crap. Do you feel that? Yeah, there's Toa here. Alright, let's go fight them. The Toa kind of are flying around. They're trying to get used to actual flying, with Toa Liwa and Gali being the best at it. One, because Toa Liwa is a Toa bear, so he has like a natural aptitude for it, and also been using that levitation. But also, Toa Gali has some better sense of it, since swimming underwater is a different way of movement that is more similar to like very, very, very slow flying, as far as like moving in a 3D space. Similar to that. But everybody else is kind of just adjusting to it. They also are getting into clashes with the Makuta, and after a bit, they talk about some of the Athatoran start joining the battle and going into the fray. Yes.
So is this when the Toamata actually learned that there's more than one Makuta?
No, they learned
other stuff
learned that when they met Makuta Icarax. They were informed. They basically have been getting a lot of information from the Order of Matanui, but the books and source material never explain that. They never directly just tell you, oh yeah, the Order of Matanui has just been giving them and revealing them about a lot of secrets of the universe and a lot of stuff that they just didn't know. It's just left for you to infer that that is the only reason they know these things. Because when they are on the island of Zaya and Icarax is there, they don't say that, oh, the Makuta is here. They're like, a Makuta is here. It's some Makuta is here. And they just never drop that information before, that there are multiple Makuta. They just let you go and be like, oh, okay, I guess Makuta, there's more, I guess it's a species thing, I guess. Technically, the only time we have like cataloged information that like, here's the history of all the Makuta and stuff. I talked about it last time, but it's more that I skipped ahead. There's a story serial in 2008 called the Mutran Chronicles, since you weren't here before and I talked about this. That is basically a chronology of a lot of the Brotherhood of Makuta's timeline, And that is more like the definitive, that's how we know that there's a bunch of different Makutas in their history and stuff. But as far as the story goes, they just throw Icarax at you in the Gali Nuva blog, of all things, not even in the main book stories. And then if you just went from book 8 to book 9, they'd be like, oh, there's a bunch of Makuta. You'd be like, what? There's a bunch of Makuta? What does that even mean? Poor storytelling on that front to just do that, where there is a lot of just, you have to infer that the Order of Matanui has just been like explaining things that we, the audience, didn't get explained. So, but anyway, so like, jump in the battle. Some of the Avatar are now jumping into the fray as well. Throwing out some light balls to kind of help. And so Liwa's like, hey, man, listen, you need to get out of here. It's too dangerous. And Solek is like, Tenma's like, no, you guys, where have you guys been? Your Toa, whatever, here, you guys need to help us. And attaches to Toa Liwa's back, somehow. And he's like, hey man, this is a one-person ride. But all of a sudden he attaches to his back. Toa Liwa is flooded with all of these memories from Tenma and explaining everything that's happening on. And so basically they start working in pairs of two. The Makuta are working in pairs of two with a Shadow Matoran on them. The Toa are working with pairs of two with a Avmatoran on them, where they can, the Shadow Matoran are able to shoot bolts of darkness, Avmatoran are able to shoot bolts of light, and the Toa Nuva are using these new blasters called Midax Sky Blasters. It's a sick-ass name. Midax Sky Blasters.
But that sounded great in the commercial.
Dude, it sure did. But also, we come back to actually having a good blaster now.
Yay!
Hooray!
Yay!
Good things to shoot at each other. Using what is more or less the same thing as the Zamor launcher spears, but just shiny and silver now. They are basically just balls of pure light that shoot out, which is great for fighting beings of darkness, aka the Makuta. Get their new weapons in here. I'll show you the new ones for the other Toa next time. But end up fending off the Makuta. They run off for now. The Toa get together. They start talking to the Matoran. They get retold like, hey, there's this giant light and everything and whatever. And they're like, okay, cool. Do you know where the light went? They're like, yeah, it fell down into the swamp. They're like, shit. So what that means is that the Mask of Light, or the Mask of Life, was used in Cardanui and then fell down into the swamp. So they already were like, hey, the swamp's pretty dangerous. So the Toa Nuva decided they were going to split up. Half the team will stay up here, trying to save the Matoran villages, trying to find some way to fend off the Makuta attacks. And Tahu Gali and Onua Nuva will go down into the swamp to try and find the Mask of Life. As they are having this discussion, the Mask of Life is just sitting in the waters and has turned a shade of silver from the gold it originally was. And it's sitting there and it's thinking, and it's like, man, I can sense that there's these dark beings here. I can also sense that there's Toa here. It's like, I've always just created guardians to fight for me. But the Mask of Life is so inspired by the heroism of Matoro and the adventures that he got to live vicariously through Matoro, that the Last of Life starts pulling in different elements together and forms a body for itself and decides that it is going to be a Toa now. And that is where we get the Toa Inika. The Mask of Life has created a Toa body for itself, and it's going to become a big old Toa boy now.
The Toa Inika?
Toa Ignika.
Ignika?
Ignika, because it's the Kanohi Ignika.
Okay.
Inika and Ignika, I know. It's
right.
Yes. But he is the Toa of Life, and he has this life blade. He's got the Mask of Life. Mask of Life he wears.
What is that
life
like
blade, that's
like the dude from Bleach where like his blade heals you?
Yeah, I know, right? Oh, yeah. But that is the official name for the weapon is the Life Blade. Much as this one is an air saber. Before that, Toa Liwa had air katanas. The naming of some of the Toa tools is kind of crazy. And also has a Midax Sky Blaster, and builds himself this sick-ass, hoverboard thing that he can ride around on. And he starts flying up to go see what all the commotion's about up top. And shows up, and so as he's moving up to go do that, the Toa, Solek comes up and he's like, Kopaka, I'm your number one fanboy. Yes.
I meant to ask, how does he know who they are?
About to get there.
Okay.
Because all of the Toa Nuva, while they were looking around, they're like, this place is really familiar. I feel like there's something missing in our memories of why we're here. I feel like we were here, and they kind of all start reliving a little bit of memories that at some point, sometime before they were put into canisters, the Toa had been there to help these Avmatoran fight off something, but the pieces are all kind of muddled up and mixed. They're not really sure of why or when or how they were here, but somehow they were there at one point and then ended up in the canisters and then took forever and they showed up on Motunui. So Solek basically starts talking to Kopaka and being like, Kopaka, like you're my number one Toa. You're so cool and awesome, and that's why I wear my white armor. I made my armor white because you're so cool and awesome. It'd be really cool if you could come and help us and stuff, and maybe we could be friends. And it'd be really cool. Yes.
Does this dude have a Kopaka Holly Shrine?
Yeah, he might. He has kind of like a little. Only in his mind though, because he keeps his kinks to himself. He doesn't subject everybody else to that. Respectable indeed.
Wasn't it Nokama Shrine?
It was a Nokama Shrine. Yes, I was gonna correct it, but yeah. But it's all good. I mean, listen. I'm the one who has to remember all the names here. You guys have the whiteboard to kind of help out on that. So kind of relays the information that at some point the Toa were there while the Matoran were doing a lot of working in the initial parts of their initial plans and making whatever that happened to be long ago, and they protected the Matoran so they could finish their original labors before they would eventually go and move up to the stalactites that were on the ceiling of the cavern. They made their villages there, and then 1,000 years ago, a great cataclysm happened. Stalactites fell from the cavern and then fell to the cavern floor, and that's where they built their villages on top there. But after that, after they finished helping Matoran build stuff before, way back when apparently, the Toa just suddenly vanished. They don't know where they went and anything like that. So the Toa plan to team up because they're like, okay, what are we gonna do? And they're like, well, we need to find where the Makuta went. We find them, we track them down, see how they're making these shadow Matoran, and cut that out because they learned that it is these shadow leeches that they're just dropping on people. They just attach to you and they just suck the light out of you and they give you bat wings and make you dark. Meanwhile, the three Makuta have made their way back to the cavern where Mutran is. Mutran is another Makuta. He's basically the jumbo big brain scientist Makuta who makes a bunch of crazy rahi and stuff. And he has another Matoran that works with him named Vikan. Who is basically his lab servant that he abuses like a horrible Dr. Frankenstein and Igor kind of dynamic. And they are going to, they're just making different stuff and they're talking about, what do we, oh man, there's Toa here. Okay, well, we need to get rid of Toa. And so Antraz goes to Vikan and was like, look, there are Toa here now and there's 6 of them. Regardless that there are 7 Makuta of us here, 6 Toa are just too unpredictable. And it's like, we don't have a lot of time. We need to get this Mask of Life. Vikan, you need to send word to Icarax that we need his help here to come fight these Toa so we can just make things easier for us. And so Mutran sends Vikan to go and fly over back to the home base of the Makuta. The island is called Destrel. It is a teleporting island that can just be teleported anywhere in the Matoran universe, if a Makuta wills it to be. So yeah. So he's going to go out and do that. It takes 30 minutes to get there, and lands on the island that is just filled with Rakshi and Vizirac spiders and Exo-Toa armor that all are like, halt, intruder. And he just very much like, oh no, I got this tablet of transit. I got this tablet of transit. Please let me come in. Please let me. I need to go see Icarax. And he goes and Mutran gave him explicit details on where to find Icarax, but Icarax just shows up and throat slams him against the wall. He's like, "What are you doing here? You showed up unannounced. Don't say anything to me. I could have killed you, kid. Probably still can." And he's like, "Yeah, Antraz says that he needs. Antraz said that he needs you to come help him in Cardanui and fight Toa. Also, what? You're wearing the Kanohi Kakan? That's the mask of Makuta Pterodax. Oh no, it looks like Icarax has taken the throne and usurped Pterodax, because nobody really knows where Pterodax has been for the most part. Pterodax has been giving orders telepathically, but as far as everyone knows, the last place he was seen is he was in the waters of Mari Nui, but nobody knows really what's happened to him in the meantime. And so Icarax is like, all right, Antros sends help for me. I'm not some lapdog for him to call on, but I'll go fix this problem for him, and I'll put him in his place. So Icarax goes to go and do that. In the meantime, the Toa have been standing around talking to each other like, oh yes, definitely. We know where the Makuda's home base is, and we're going to go there, and we're going to destroy it. Kirpa, who is just sitting outside, unannounced, hears this and goes, oh crap, oh shit, I need to go and warn the other Makuta, and starts flying back towards the nest of where the other Makuta are at. And the Toa all get together and they're like, alright, we took the bait. Because they have just tricked Kirpa into thinking that they're going to attack their base, but they actually have no idea where it is, and they're just going to leave it to there. And with that, we're going to go ahead and take a break, take an end for this week, and then get on to getting on for next week.